It's your girl, Missniecytv, and I'm here with a review for Sistas Season 6, Episode 2. Episode starts off with Danny and Andy in the car. Andy picked up Danny after she got a call from the bartender from the last episode saying that Danny was drunk at the bar. They have a conversation about how Danny should make better choices and that they love her and that every friend in the group has their chance to be in the hot seat. Well, Danny tells her that she should make better choices as well with Gary. And then Andy tells her that everybody has their own journey and that she should respect it and that she will leave Gary eventually. Danny arrives home to an unexpected surprise. Jonah. Jonah is the man who assaulted her last season, that she ran over with her car and she thought he was dead and he turned out not to be. So he came back to handle some unfinished business. His exact words were, "You think I'm gonna let you get away with what you did? You try to kill me. That's not gonna happen." So they begin to tussle and Danny grabs a bottle and she smacks it across his head, which causes him to fall on the floor, and they begin to fight and tussle. And as Danny is fighting for her life and tussling with Jonah, Preston walks up to the door. He knocks on the door and he hears noises, and he believes that Danny is having sex with someone, which she's not. She's clearly fighting for her life. He's sitting in his car and he's asking himself, what is he doing here and why am I putting myself in this situation? And then as he begins to drive off, he stops and he goes back upstairs. And that's when he sees Danny fighting for her life, and he begins to attack Jonah as well. Then he eventually beats up Jonah and leaves him on the ground while he's consoling Danny on the floor as well, telling her that he got her. Andy arrives home to see Gary laying in these stupid rose petals, and Gary tells Andy that he's been a bad boy. And Andy says, as tempting as it is, we need to have a conversation. He says, a conversation about what? She says, about how you always seem to control me and I'm not allowed that anymore. So she tells him to go sleep in the guest room. He clearly doesn't want to do that because he wants Andy to have sex with him. I'm glad Andy finally put up some type of small boundaries, but we know that's not going to last long. And it returns to Danny talking to the police, and she tells a police officer that she wants to get a restraining order out on Jonah, and the police officer tells her that he will be in touch. After the police officer leaves, Preston and Danny have a conversation about what happened, and Danny says that she doesn't want to talk about it, and Preston insists that he's going to stay the night at Danny's place. Danny resists at first, but then she eventually lets him stay. But while all this is happening, she's asking, where's Mindy? And Preston says, she knows I'm here, and she also knows that I love you, and that she knows that you love me too, because she said it. Calvin goes over to Sabrina's house to tell her about the situation, about what happened with Maurice and Q and how Maurice shot Q. And then Sabrina freaks out because she's like, does he understand what he did, and does he understand the magnitude of the situation? That if he goes back to jail, I still owe the money to Bile because he lent it to us, knowing that we both said that we wouldn't get back to any trouble. Sabrina asks Calvin if Q is alive. He says yes, but he's in the hospital. She's like, oh my God. Then Maurice walks in and she forces him on the couch and she says, explain to me what happened. And then he goes, well, I went to go get my stuff, but he had a gun, so we started wrestling for the gun, and that's when I shot him. And then she goes, Maurice, do you understand what you did? He's like, yeah, Sabrina, that Q took everything from him, so he's gonna take everything from Q. And then they start talking about the bank and how they lost their jobs. Then Sabrina tells Maurice that the bank is doing a full investigation and that they just told us to leave. Then he's like, no, they told us that we're fired. And then Maurice also says that he's gonna get to confess everything. And they was like, we've already tried that, but it's not gonna work because he's not gonna confess anything. We get this cute Fatima moment where Zach is making Fatima breakfast. He got up 2 hours early to fix the breakfast for her in bed, but she's coming downstairs. So he said bed and breakfast is ruined. But then he also tells her that he wants to be formally introduced to his son, and he wants her to come with him to be introduced. And then she's like, I would, but you should go first, just in case something. Like, what if something bad is happening over there? Then they both go across that bridge when we get to it. After Fatima leaves to go to work, Zach calls Heather asking, can he see his son? Heather goes, yeah, as long as you keep sending money, I'll let you see him anytime you want. Then he goes, well, who watches the baby while you're sleeping? She goes, my sister does, but when she's not working, I watch him. But then she goes, well, or he has his tablet, his door's locked. But then Zach goes, you leave him in the house by himself? She's like, yeah, he can't get out though because the door's locked. Then he goes, I'll be over there at 3. But originally, Zach goes, I wanted to be there at 1, but she goes, come at 3. It's the next morning, and Preston and Danny are having a conversation about Preston staying over. Danny insists that he goes home, but then Preston goes like, I will fly her home, then I'm coming back, because he also lets Danny know that Jonah made bail. She goes, how do you know? He goes, well, I looked on the police site and it says that he's not there anymore. And he goes, I don't know how Mindy would find you staying with me inappropriate, because if it were me, I surely wouldn't. Then she goes, that's what white people do. He goes, Danny, don't you have to get ready for work? She's like, yeah. Hayden calls Gary about the whole Robin situation, and Gary tells Hayden that he already knows, and that because Andy told him. And then Hayden tells Gary that Tamara's already over, and then Gary goes, well, you should do an investigation on her because she may not be who she truly is. And then he goes, I already did. Well, you don't believe a girl like her could fall for me? And then Gary laughs and tells Gary that Tamara is over. And then Gary goes, you should do a background check on her. Hayden goes, why? Because I've already did it, but you don't believe a girl like her could fall for me? Then Gary laughs. Andy and Gary have the same conversation about Robin and how Andy doesn't like that he's playing games at her job, and how he could have cost her a job only because he's mad at Robin. And then he goes, well, I've been doing some thinking and that we should talk it out. Then she goes like, okay. And Maurice are having the same conversation about the situation with Q. And then she goes, do you understand the magnitude of what you did? He goes, yeah, but I don't care. But I will visit him in the hospital to get him to confess to everything. She goes, do you know what you did? You made the situation worse. Maurice is like, can't be no worse than what you did to me. Then they talk about the bank, and they talk about the... After Hayden and Tamara have morning sex, Tamara asks, will I still be getting the job at the firm? He goes, I will check on that as soon as I get to work. Then she goes, I will bring you lunch. And then they do like this funny joke. And then he goes upstairs. Eric calls Fatima asking about pay. Fatima goes, pay for what? She goes, pay for the job that you hired me to do. Fatima goes, damn, my cousin already tell you what the deal was? She's like, yeah, but I also want to be paid for extras. She's like, there's no extras, and I didn't pay you to think. Do your job and do it the way that I told you. She's like, well, I can get him for it all. She's like, Fatima's like, that's not what I hired you to do. Tamara hangs up the phone, and she goes, that's what you think I will be getting him for it all. It ends with Aaron calling Pam, asking where Karen is because he hasn't heard from her all day. He said, I've tried to call her and text her, but she's not answering. Then Pam goes, let me ask you something. Who's that lady that came to the salon? Aaron goes, that's none of your business. Pam goes, it is my business because he brought her up to Karen's salon and I was there. He goes, well, just tell me where Karen is and tell her that I'm sorry and I would really like to talk to her. Pam goes, how do you get my number? He's like, don't worry about it. She goes, well, I'm not Karen's secretary. Well, Aaron goes, clearly you are. She goes, well, not when I'm on my phone. And Aaron, please lose my number. Please let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And turn on your bell notification. Bye!